Hey everyone, today we're going to tackle a question that sounds so incredibly simple, you've probably never given it a second thought. But this one little question managed to shatter a philosophical idea that had been standing strong for over 2,000 years. Let's get into it. I mean, what does it mean to really, truly know it? Not just have a hunch or a strong feeling, but to actually possess knowledge. It seems like it should have an easy answer, right? Well, as we're about to find out, it's one of the trickiest questions out there. For the longest time, we're talking all the way back to Plato, philosophers had a go-to answer. It was called the Justified True Belief Account, or JTB for short. And it's pretty straightforward. For you to know something, 3 specific conditions have to be met.
The easiest way to think about it is like a sturdy, 3-legged stool. For knowledge to stand up, it needs all 3 legs. If you kick even one of them out, the whole thing just collapses. So let's take a quick look at each one.
Okay, so the first pillar is belief. This one's a total no-brainer. You can't possibly know something if you don't even believe it's true in the first place. You can't know the sky is blue if you don't believe it's blue. Simple as that. But just believing something, even with all your heart, isn't enough. The second pillar is truth. Your belief has to actually connect with reality. You know, think about a diehard football fan who is absolutely certain his team was going to win the Super Bowl. When they lose, you can't say he knew they would win. He just had a very, very strong but ultimately false belief. And this brings us to the crucial third pillar, justification. Your true belief can't just be some lucky guess. Imagine a guy named Malcolm, a huge pessimist, who wakes up every single day believing something terrible is going to happen. Day after day, he's wrong, but then one day, he gets hit by a runaway piano. Now, his belief that day turned out to be true, but did he know it was going to happen? Of course not. He had no reason, no evidence. It was just a horrible, random coincidence. And that was the whole package: belief, truth, and justification. For centuries, this was the definition. It was clean, it made sense, and it seemed to cover everything. The problem of what knowledge is, that was considered solved. Case closed. Until it wasn't. In 1963, this entire 2,000-year-old idea was completely demolished. And not by some giant, complicated book either. It was taken down by a philosophical paper that was barely 2.5 pages long. The guy who wrote it was a philosopher named Edmund Gettier. And his argument was just devastatingly simple. He basically said, look, I agree you need belief, truth, and justification. They're all necessary. But, and this is the key, he argued they are not sufficient. In other words, you can have a justified true belief and still not actually have knowledge. And he proved it with a couple of brilliant stories. So how did he do it? Well, let's walk through his first case. It's a little story about 2 guys, Smith and Jones, who are up for the same job. The details are really important here, so stick with me. All right, so Smith has what seems like rock-solid evidence, right? The president of the company tells him flat out that Jones is getting the job. And then Smith himself counts the coins in Jones's pocket. There are exactly 10. Seems pretty open and shut. So based on this really strong evidence, Smith forms a belief that is perfectly logical. He thinks to himself, the man who will get the job has 10 coins in his pocket. It's completely justified. But here comes the twist that just breaks everything. It turns out the president was wrong. Smith gets the job, and in a 1 in a million coincidence, completely unknown to him, Smith also has exactly 10 coins in his own pocket. So let's go back and check Smith's belief against our 3-part definition. His belief was, the man who will get the job has 10 coins in his pocket. Is it a belief? Yes, he believes it. Is it true? Yes, because he got the job and he has 10 coins. Is it justified? Yes. His justification was based on what the president said about Jones. It checks all 3 boxes. Smith has a perfect justified true belief. But here's the killer question. Does he actually know that the man who will get the job has 10 coins? And our intuition just screams, no. He has no idea he's getting the job and no idea he has 10 coins in his pocket. He's only right because of pure insane luck. Gettier didn't just leave it at that. He gave a second example just to make sure the point really landed. This one involves Smith again, his friend Jones, and a Ford car. So Smith has every reason to believe his friend Jones owns a Ford. From that perfectly justified belief, he makes another statement. Either Jones owns a Ford or my other friend, Brown, is in Barcelona.
Now, he has absolutely no idea where Brown is. But since the first part of that statement seems so obviously true, the whole either or thing is logically justified. And here's the punchline. It turns out Jones sold his Ford and is just driving a rental. So Smith's justification was flawed. But, and you can see where this is going, by sheer cosmic coincidence, his friend Brown actually is, at that very moment, in Barcelona. So his belief is true, and it was justified. But he didn't know it. He just got lucky. Okay. And that right there is the Gettier Problem. It's the discovery that you can have a belief that is true and justified, but it still is knowledge because luck played a starring role. Your justification was actually disconnected from why the thing was true. You were right by accident. So Gettier basically proved that our classic three-legged stool wasn't enough. Belief, truth, and justification are the absolute minimum. They're the starting point, but they're not the whole story. Some other crucial ingredient is missing. That little paper kicked off an absolute firestorm in the world of philosophy. For the last 60-plus years, thinkers have been on a quest to find a fourth condition for knowledge, some extra piece of the puzzle that makes the definition totally luck-proof. They've come up with all sorts of ideas, but so far, nobody's been able to agree on one. And that leaves us right back at our original question, but with a much deeper sense of just how tricky it is. Gettier didn't give us the right answer. He just proved that the old one was wrong. So if knowledge isn't just a justified true belief, then what in the world is it? And that's a question we are all still trying to figure out.